Welcome to Strata. I'm Glenn.
And I'm Brandon. Welcome to the Minds on Muscle podcast.
Yes, Greg. Damn. Go your son shades on. Go your son shades on.
All right, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Welcome to the Minds on Muscle podcast. For today's episode, Minds on CLAYS Muscle. Glenn and I are here with Mr. Curtis Clay. Clay, how you doing?
Guys, I'm doing good. Doing well. I'm excited for this. As I was last time, I'm excited. I'm doing well.
I'm looking forward to it. That was the perfect intro as far as I'm concerned. No intro will ever be better than that in the history of podcasts. If it's, I know we're all on some time limits today. If it's okay, we'll just jump right into it, Curtis.
Let's get it, man.
Beautiful. So for people that didn't join us last time, Curtis, for Mind on CLAYS CORTEX numero uno, tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Me, yeah, man. My name is Curtis Van Wyk. I have a gym business. Sorry, I don't have a gym. I have a professional service that I offer here in Washington. The place we offer professional services is in what you would probably call a gym. But yeah, I mean, same as you guys, right? So we're working with a very specific clientele to help them reach their goals. I work with people that have movement issues, and that could range from athletes that don't move very well, want to get stronger, to somebody that can't get off the toilet by themselves. So I mean, it's a pretty wide variety. But yeah, it's what I do. I mean, I got 2 kids. I mean, last time I was on, I don't know how old Honor was, but he's 11 months now. He'll be 12 months soon, or a year. Our daughter's 3. Got an awesome wife. My wife's a boss. Yeah, I'm just kind of a chill dude. I like to learn. I like to think, and I love to talk about training and other things too, obviously. But yeah, it's kind of me. I'm a pretty mellow dude, and yeah.
So if you had a chance to listen to the last Curtis Clay episode, we talked about culture and environment and how important that is. In a lot of different contexts, we talked about our environments and other environments that we might be harbored in. Now, Curtis and myself and Glenn, we all come from the same cloth where we have the same muscle system specialist background. We do a lot of diagnostics and assessment processes and a lot of data collection to help figure out the best place to start with any person. However, Curtis, one thing that we want to kind of interview you and learn more about is you do have a specialty. Or at least a niche that you focus on. You do work with a lot of young athletes in a kind of a mentorship capacity and a mechanical capacity. So Glenn and I were hoping that we could pick your brain to learn a little bit more about how you use some of the methodology we use, but to work with young athletes and how that helps you moving forward with them and making sure that they understand the philosophy so they don't get injured and can ultimately play for their entire life.
Right. Yeah, I love it. I mean, yeah, like they said, I kind of gave a little background on me, but I work with a lot of athletes, right? And I think and youth. I mean, there's some professional that's not really the market I'm after. I think I just have a passion of essentially pouring into the youth. I think that's a big passion of mine too. And I obviously love the body and training, and just like you guys do. But yeah, I'm known to work with athletes. But yeah, I mean, I think the content is crucial, the assessment, everything, to making those decisions to help them, like you said, Brandon, stay injury free and not get hurt. So yeah, I'm actually, when I got the email the topic, I was super pumped. It's like, ooh, let's see where this goes. You know what I'm saying?
So, I mean, with all that in mind, Curtis, when you think about working with, let's say, an athlete, and we'll say, like you said, a young athlete, let's say 16, 17 years old, has aspirations of going pro, or at least, trying to get into a university or college and play at a high level. And you've got this athlete, and then you've got, I'll just call it I know everyone's different, but we'll call it like Mary Jane, 50 years old, just wants to be able to play with her grandchildren, feel a little bit stronger, feel a little bit more confident. Are you treating these two people differently at all? And if so, how are you looking at it?
I love it. No, I'm not looking at the same. Obviously. Now I think there's a thing that we got to, talk about is, I've been having this talk with a lot of people, is our sport's healthy. I mean, you guys went over that in the podcast, which I think we could touch back on that. Our sport's healthy. I mean, it's a pretty tough thing to say that sports are healthy, right? Like, I think in your guys' episode, you guys talked about how, we celebrate the person that's hurt but scores the touchdown. They're a legend. They're a hero. Yet no, you're not, until you got to get some surgeries when you're later in life. So I don't approach them the same way at any means. I do the same process of doing our assessment, right? Gathering the data, looking at their health history questionnaire. Now, you say Mary Jane?
I'm Mary something,
Mary something.
MJ.
MJ, she's 50. This kid's 16, 17. Their injury history and exercise history is going to be completely different, right? Even though MJ or Mary Jane is 50, she's still going to have a lot more injury history going through life of how she's used her body. Hopefully she lives to 100. That's half her life she's been using it, compared to a 16-year-old who's not even at a quarter. So of their, if we're using 100 years old to live, which would be great, getting to that point. So I do collect data the same way. I do the consultation. I do the assessment process. And there might be some kids, I got known for getting kids that were hurt and getting them back to normal as a part of this continuum. Or, parents or, the sports med doctor was frustrated with the progress of the physical therapist. And they're like, hey, you got to go see this guy in Woodinville. He does his thing. Just let him do his thing, And so, I don't approach it the same. I mean, if Mary Jane needs to function well and move well and would like to exercise, we're going to focus on that in a strategic manner. Exercise is medicine. We're going to dose it as such. I'm also going to do the same thing with the athlete, but there are attributes that the athlete needs when what they're trying to get out of their muscular system or control system to be good at their sport. And so there's a much more specific goal, I believe, on attributes we're trying to produce in an athlete that is being graded on the sport they're playing to be seen as elite, high level, and so forth. Mary Jane just wants to, I want to do my dishes. I want to do some cooking, and I don't want to hurt. Okay, cool. Let's go about it that way, right? So I'm going to approach those things completely different as you guys. You guys know this, so for sure we're going to approach those things differently.
Very cool. Now, if you don't want me asking, Chris, I mean, that's great that you're getting athletes once they're injured, but I've noticed, at least from the content you've promoted, that a lot of the athletes you have are younger athletes. You got a lot of young people coming in, I'm guessing sub 20s, maybe just early 20s. What would you say, if you have those young people, what would you say the number one thing is that you found to be a driver that gets these young people who maybe aren't injured, thinking about their body different and trying to be preventative so they can avoid that kind of common sports athlete thing where they're 40, they got a huge injury?
Right. Yeah, I think the biggest thing I found, let's say non-injured, right? So like you just said, so non-injured. I want to get, what do they say? I want to get bigger, fast, stronger. And then I'll ask them, what does that mean to you? So I don't think we can start that process of educating them on how to do that in a safe manner or not get that injury as they get older by seeing how they perceive those things. And then from there, we do the assessment, just as you guys do. We're essentially starting the education process. That's what I think it is, right? Because people will go on Instagram, right? Like you said, my content, and they're like, oh, I got to do that exercise. Well, one, you don't know why that exercise was performed. You're getting a snapshot of what that person was using as a tool to help their system move better. It's a snapshot. So to understand my thought process from a 30-second, 15-second clip is, come on, man.
It's impossible. It's completely impossible.
So the thing that I found the most that works well is sparking their curiosity, right? And that's what I found is, okay, if I can spark the curiosity, they get intrigued, right? Like, whoa, it's like dangling candy in front of a kid, right? And then you go through this process of like, okay, they like that candy. Okay, they trust me now. That's probably the biggest thing is they trust me. And how can I start to get them to understand how they move? Once they understand how they move, then we can begin the process of pushing it towards this is how you should train, this is how you should do things. I'm not saying everybody, I'm saying you, your spine doesn't move like that. That lift's not a good option for you. That's why we're not doing it, right? Now, if that's something you desire to do, we can do that, but there's other ways to get those attributes out of your muscular system with other lifts, right? So I think it starts with, sparking their interest, gaining trust to then start to educate them on how to move appropriately, right? And using principles of like analogy. Hey, when you're doing this lift, you're doing a squat, come down, park that car, right? Park the car, ease into it. You're not going to smash the car in front of you, right? And then hit the car and like, oh crap, I got to get out of here, right? We're not Fast and Furious, okay? So you get to there, you park the car, hit reverse, and you're not going to back out super fast. You want to look behind you, ease out of there. So teaching them principles on how to control their system in a better manner. Don't get me wrong though. I mean, there's some things that we do with these kids where it's fast and aggressive, but I try to do that in a way to where it's in their available joint range of motion to not murder them. And that's the beauty of using machines, especially Kaiser. You can do some really cool stuff with that. You can do a lot of really cool things. So it starts with educating them and going that process, but being thoughtful of not abusing their system, essentially,
Yeah, so I find that interesting. If you don't mind, can I ask you a quick follow-up here, Curtis?
Keep going. Oh, I'm trying to make sure that's plugged in.
No, it's all good. So the
Yeah.
National Coaching Certification Program in Canada, the NCCP, I think that's what they call it. They put a very large focus on physical literacy. If you look at how they build out training for speed or power or endurance, all of it is based off of the physical literacy. When you're working with people, and especially young athletes in your profession, are you spending a lot of the time with the physical literacy in terms of like the movements like hopping, jumping, like walking gait and all that kind of stuff? Are you focusing more on the pieces that allow that to happen in the muscles or some combination of both?
I'd say some combination of both. I think you have to get the pieces first.
Mhm.
You have to. I want to teach a kid how to jump, but they don't have ankle control. We're done. We're done. I'm not going to load a compromised system. But then once they get to a point where they're expressing that, and that's why I think the tools we have to check it on their system is very powerful. To see, hey, how are they doing today? Hey, how's this going? Okay, well, you know what? We could probably do that little jumping thing today. Or we can go and check and see. Once we do that exercise, how did their system hold up? Oh, gosh, dude, I got a volleyball player. Man, we do like a couple of, counter jumps, right? Hands to the hips. We have like a machine that detects their vertical ground contact time, and they do that movement and like, oh, the vert looks good. And you can track when their jumps start to go down. It's like, oh, geez, we got to stop right here. Bring them to the table. How your ankles doing? How's this doing? Based off what their issues are. They don't got hip extension, or I would say like maybe like a forced couple of knee extension and plantar flexion, right? So you look at a lot of jumpers that play volleyball, basketball, they don't really jump from the hip that much, right? They jump at a higher hip position, which means length tension relationship, you're going to use different muscles. Let's check those. Wow, they're not doing very good. We did 3 jumps. You want to play a volleyball match that may elicit way more jumps than that. Uh-oh. So how do we build that tolerance up? But now we've got a test to see how their body holds up. So, volleyball, you got to be able to jump. You got to be able to express force and so forth. And so I would say I do a combination of both. But there's I try to keep a process of like they're owning these pieces. Now let's start to do let's orchestrate them together. Then maybe we'll mess with increasing velocity and so forth, right? But I see a lot of trainers or strength coaches or around here. It's like, oh, I train athletes. That's cool, man. They are a person. They have, and I think this principle stuck out to me. This to me now because my godfather played football in the NFL for 16 years, right? So I didn't see him as a football player. I saw him as my godfather, and then I probably saw him coach more than play football because I was like, I don't even know I was born yet when he started playing football. And I remember when he brought me down to the locker room one day after a Seahawks game, and he said, Curtis, when you walk in here, like he was very like, Curtis, he had these words that were weighty. He said, when you go in here, I need you to treat these men as if they're anybody else. This is just a job that they do to pay their bills. And so for me, I'm like, at that age, I didn't realize the weight of that. But now I get it. They're just a human. They're just a person. It's something they do, right? It's a role that they play. So how do I treat them as an individual? How do I do that? And so with that, and you know what? Off the top of my head, I forgot where I was going with that. But but yeah, essentially, you have to look at the person and train them that way. I forgot what I was saying, guys. But anyways, that was a pretty powerful point to me that I went. But
it's funny you say that, kind of like it was your grandfather that would say the NFL stuff to you.
my godfather. Yeah.
Godfather. So my grandfather was involved with the NHL. When I was a very young age, I was exposed to professional athletes and background NHL scenes all the time. And he would always say that same thing to me. And he would kind of pause and go, hey, when we get back here, just remember, these are people. These aren't necessarily superstars. And he was always trying to teach that when you'd meet someone of, gravity or someone who had some weight behind them from an acumen perspective, that they're just real people. And if you could connect with them as real people, it really went a long way. So that worked out well for developing professionalism. But from an athletic perspective, you said something that really struck me. I started off for a little while really getting involved with working with professional hockey players at the very beginning of opening this place. And I got, to be honest, and this is where I have so much respect for you, I completely stepped away from even trying to get into that realm because the politics of trying to converse with other trainers, their agents, the people in their world that were kind of negotiating and supporting them to move forward through college or whatever program, it was this incredible battle. And so it was almost impossible to treat anybody, at least in my experience, with individuality, Because if you try to treat them like an individual, there'd be another coach who would be doing the hoorah, exciting, big stuff. And it was really hard to make any movement forward. If you don't mind me asking, I mean, you as a coach, I mean, and a trainer, you really have a totally polar opposite. I mean, you're going south while all the other coaches are going north. How have you found that battle of, so to speak, that conversation or managing yourself with other coaches while you're doing the exact opposite thing, but getting better results?
Right. It's been a battle to some aspects. Sorry, I was moving around. This plug's not working. I don't know what's going down. That's okay. Anyways, yes. And I remember where I was talking about my godfather. Let me go move locations again. Yeah. So how have I found that battle with other people? Yeah. Essentially, yeah, it's been tough. It's been very frustrating due to the fact that they say that they train athletes and they want to do these certain types of things, but they're not making it individual to them, right? So they're like, it's sports specific. What does that mean, right? Why don't you make it client specific, or why don't you do it that way? So what I've noticed when I first started out on this journey, I was going, like you said, against the grain, and it was hard because I felt like, one, am I the crazy one? Am I the crazy one? I realized, no, I'm not, because athletes were getting better results. I was getting people sent to me for specific issues and all these types of things. So battling against what everybody else does, in my opinion, and like you said, was tough at first. But I think that now the results that I've seen and what's been happening has been going so well. I mean, to date, my wife was like, you got to do the update on how many kids have gotten scholarships. I was like, who cares, And she's like, yeah, look it up. So I started looking it up again. And the last time I updated it was like a few years ago. So to date, since 2012, I've had 112 kids or 108 kids sign scholarships and play college to some aspect. And so and the cool thing about that is that I was able to educate them. They don't get hurt when they go to college and so forth. So going against the grain, right? It was hard at first. But the thing is, though, is if that individual is paying for you to help them, we have to be individualized. We have to tailor everything to them. Because like if you got a guy that plays, like I don't work with any, I work with one hockey guy, right? And he's in the 17 and he signed, I might get this wrong. He's supposed to be up in Canada. He got like drafted or signed. It's not the NHL, but it's like a one level down, or I don't know how it works, right? So yeah, there's attributes that he needs as a hockey player. But the things that he does really well, he doesn't need to work on a whole bunch. The things that he doesn't do well is what most hockey trainers would potentially not do with them. Like, oh, they don't need to do this. They need to work on, pushing side to side and doing this type of stuff. It's like, well, that's actually not what he needs. He doesn't control his system very well. So word around here is spread like, wow, whatever sports you play, that's where you got to go. I don't know how to explain. I don't know how to explain what he does, but he does something, and it's really good, And so, getting people to rethink how we're going about training is a huge aspect of that. So, it was a battle at first, but I think it started with me being okay with being different and delivering from my knowledge level, which continues to grow, the best for them, and then getting with the medical community or other trainers. Let's say other trainers. I had to humble myself. Right? Like, why are they doing that with that person? Well, let's have a conversation. Why are you doing that? And then when I can start talking to them about why I'm doing what I'm doing, they get intrigued, right? Because there's this ego involved. I'm a better sports trainer than that person. Who cares? Who cares? Because the person gets to choose who they want to work with, and they might like that environment better than the other one. Or, wow, this person pays more attention, or maybe cost is a factor. There's all these different things. So talking with the trainers can be frustrating. But to some aspect, that's the world that we operate in. So, I mean, especially now, look at the politic world we operate in, but I don't want to go that route, right? Having discussions with people is unprecedented. I think the things we're seeing in politics right now happened in the fitness industry way before all this stuff started. So
it's interesting.
It's what we got to do.
You're in an interesting spot because since you do athletic stuff so differently, I know Glenn's got a question on that, so I don't want to take too long, but you're doing things so differently and focusing on things in such an isolated way. And it's kind of it gets so against the grain that almost organically brings you a different athletes, but a different market of athletes that aren't attracted to the crazy explosive stuff. And they go, okay, I know being healthy is important. I know being scientific is important. That's great. This guy's doing that. I'm going to go to this place and do something completely different. And as you build a reputation with those scholarship athletes and people not getting hurt, I mean, that's just amazing.
Earl Nightingale, the greatest secret, right? Go wherever everyone's going, you go the opposite direction, right? I know other coaches would be selling the sexy. Curtis out here selling that educational life. I think for your branding, it'd go a long way if you brand yourself as the Dumbledore of athletic development. I think that's probably the next logical step in your marketing. But I'm not a marketing guru, so I got.
Just to be clear, we've swung from politics to Harry Potter like really quickly.
It's the greatest swing of all time, everybody. That's it.
I love it.
Greater than Sorry, go ahead, buddy. I apologize.
No, go ahead. I was saying, that's great, man. I mean, it's so good. I think it's hard being different, you know?
You know what? I think it is to begin with. Once you start to, being different is essentially just embracing yourself, right? At the end of the day, that's what being different is knowing that you're going to do things the way you want to do them for you. And it doesn't matter how everyone else does them. It doesn't mean you don't take cues from other people's success. It just means you do your own thing at the end of the day, right?
I agree. I mean, let's be honest. There's nothing new under the sun.
No.
Right?
Yeah. There's nothing really new. People innovate. Innovation is just taking a whole bunch of other people's great ideas and then mash them together until you got something that seems like it's new, but it's really just the next logical step in the continuum, so to speak, at least in my opinion.
I love it.
Yeah, man. I wanted to know, and this is where things get a little bit different for athletes versus human beings. When we deal with MJ, our 50-year-old mother who just wants to clean dishes and love her life,
married to Spider-Man.
Yeah, she doesn't. She doesn't necessarily have competition day. And she certainly doesn't have, which some athletes do, which is like one day that kind of everything relies on, right? If you ever worked with track athletes, a lot of that comes down to like one single competition over the course of a year, even though those other ones are important, there's kind of one event. And that goes for a lot of athletes. And I'm curious, how much, say when it comes to the athletes, do you get to put in to prepare them for that one big event? Because I know they have a multitude of different people they're consulting, primarily the coaches, I imagine, right? Yeah. And if so, you've probably already answered this to a degree, and I can kind of guess where I think you might go. But how do you look at that as the strength and conditioning professional or the health and fitness professional?
Yeah, I love it. I think that you guys probably experienced this too. Is I feel like we're almost like project managers of their system. Mm-hmm. Right. So there's a lot of information that we have to take in. We have to take in what's your practice schedule? What's your competition schedule? Right. Like I'm really well known in this area for training baseball and softball. I played baseball, but I'm really well known for that, for shoulder injuries, trunk rotation, controlling that stuff. Like, the reason why I got known as like the fitness back guy. Hey, he's the back guy, and that kind of stuff. And I think it's because of the sport that I work with and how their spine is being used. So it gets stressed. So when I talk about being a project manager, I have to recommend professionally what is the best option for training for them. Is it a Monday, Thursday? Is it one day a week? What can we do one day a week? And am I giving them homework? So there's all these things I have to factor in, just as we do with our health history questionnaire, injury history, exercise history, with athletes, like supplements they take. I don't have a lot of athletes that take medication, and hopefully not, because they're so young. But yeah, so that kind of varies when it comes to looking at, okay, how am I going to manage their system? Okay, hey, professionally, you should come one day a week. You should come twice a week, just like we do with any of the adults, right? Mm-hmm. To be honest, most of the kids that come in, and over time, I don't have really many athletes that come in 3 days a week. The max they typically come in, and I recommend, is 2. Right now, it's a little different because of COVID and sports aren't really happening as much in our state. So there's kids that want to come in more, and that's on the mental, emotional side also. I'm not going to pretend that isn't a real thing. They feel good when they work out. They feel good when they're here. They realize the benefit of exercise now, and I think that COVID's a perfect opportunity to even hammer that much more them to understand how important exercise is for the health of our system. But yeah, so I factor in all those things when it comes to that. With an MJ, typically I might do once a week, right? Mm-hmm. And if they come in with like, I want my elbow, sensation I have to go away, it might hopefully push them out to further and further. With athletes, they need to train regularly in my aspect. for how they want to use me. Some adults want to use me that way, where it's like, I want this to be gone. Here's your exercises. They're good with that, and then eventually they get this bug of I want to work out and so forth. So I look at what we do as like a project management, a project manager for them. What are all the stresses you're doing within your life, and how do we go from there? I do work with some track athletes. Most of them are in college now. And so that was an adjustment of getting used to preparing them for every week. We're building up for your performance at the end of the week. Mm-hmm. Most athletes I work with baseball, softball, they play 8 months out of the year, whether it's fall ball, whatever. And it's really hard to maximize their training or strength gains within, let's say, a 4-month cycle, right? I mean, I make a lot of the pitchers that are baseball players come in. I'm like, I have them sign a contract. It's not really a contract. It's more like the act of doing it. I'm not gonna find them, So, hey, I want you to not throw for 3 months out of the year. If I see that they're throwing way too much, position athletes, I don't see it as much, whatever it is. But how can I maximize that 3 months to help them reach their goals, or 4 months to reach their goals and do that? So preparing them for a one event been crucial. Like right now, it's like showcases. So how do I get this baseball or softball athlete to get so locked in, or as locked in as possible for this trip they're about to go on to play in front of a bunch of college coaches? Or football, that's one that's big too, because there's no football games. So yeah, I mean, it's building out the plan over time instead of just like, what do you want to do today? Okay, let's go from there. And so I think it's building a plan and being a true project manager of their system and educating them on that process. You know what I'm saying? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I get it. And I know I totally respect about the pitch count thing. I think there's like an unprecedented amount of young people under the age of 20 getting Tommy John surgery these days. And it's from that consistent, just like if I'm going to be the best, I got to throw every day, all the time. And, their arms are blown out before they even get to university or college, right? It's crazy. It's crazy.
Right. It's wild, man.
I like the project manager analogy that you used. One of the clients I work with, who's my longest standing and 10-year client, well, not longest, but he's been with me for 5 years. He's a retired NHL player, and he's from like the Eric Lindros older school era, and he's been out of it now for 25 years. And he's one of those perfect examples of exactly what you're talking about, overdoing it, where he played all over the place. And then when he wasn't playing, he would go home and hire coaches to work on all the things he wasn't good at. And he was actually it was really kind of cool. Him and his brother hired Charles Poliquin to work with them when he was at the very early age of his career. So Charles Poliquin, before Charles Poliquin was who he was, but they were doing stuff to get better at their shots and their skating, and just forcing to the knees, forced to the hips, forced to the back. And ironically enough, much like many athletes from that era, push through it, no MRIs, no images, no diagnostics, keep going, got to maintain the contracts. And he's one of my most beat up under 50 gentlemen that I've worked with. And he would tell you the same thing. And honestly, at this point, we've had so many conversations that he really wishes that at that time he had a project manager, someone that could be objective with him and say, hey, listen, Darren, maybe you should pull back from doing this for 2 months and just see how you feel. Hey, you're feeling this? Let's get an image on that. And there was really no project overseer for him as a project. When you're talking about molding athletes, I mean, I think that's the most perfect way of saying it is you are a project manager. And if you can give them all the tools to make better decisions than just, come on, I'm the best athletic coach. But you say, you got this, you got that, you got some good dancing music going on. It all comes together to create a total package that I think that your athletes are really going to benefit from.
Yeah, I think anybody would. I think that we have to realize that it's their project and they're allowing us to partake in that. So how do we manage that as best as possible, right? Because if I'm looking from my perspective, there's only one thing that I can control, and that's how I program them, how I coach them, how I do things, or how I remove myself from their amount of stress level they're taking when it comes to using their body. I mean, and that's been a tough conversation. You're like, hey, listen, you're not backing off on these other things. We're going to go to 1 day a week or every other week. And they're like, what? No, I want to come in. I'm like, I hear you, but we're not really progressing. And I don't want to waste your money. And I definitely don't want to waste your time, because you can't get time back. And in that scenario, it's usually the parent's money or the parent's time. But I talk to the athlete, and I talk to the parent. And then they almost see me in a different aspect, because I'm like, I'm sorry, but the fitness industry, it's about the more they come in, the more I'm gonna make that money. You're gonna come 7 days a week, no sleep. We gonna grind. And it's like, dude, okay, but really they're like, cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. Stop that. We're not going to be seen as professionals at all, right? We're not going to be seen as professionals. So I love it. I love what you said. Like, we have to manage them, and we have to realize that that is a big part of our role, because nobody's really managing them.
Professional management.
No. I mean, agents manage their money. They may go get their physical once a year. You know, it's like, who's managing them throughout that time period? I mean, we need like a mini dentist, you know, like, oh, you're brushing your teeth, you're flossing every month, you know, or whatever it is. But it's like, I think we need to do that. And I think that's with adults. Who doesn't want that as an adult? Who doesn't want to check it on my system and help me manage it so that I don't break down? Right? It's like, there's so many ways we can go about this, you know. But yeah, I love it. I mean, it's crazy. You think, I mean, your guy's what, 45, 50?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you're halfway, I'm gonna say 100. You're halfway through your life and you're beat up compared to most. Holy cow, dude. Whoa.
And it's tough because, especially with a high level athlete, the trainers on the team staff are really scared. If you have $1 million athlete and you're a $40,000 a year coach, you're not going to go, hey, I know you want to do this thing and play, but you really shouldn't. But us as outsiders, you as an outsider, really goes a long way. And I think that's how.
I love that too. I mean, that's a big thing. And it goes back to this whole ego thing. Well, they're making this amount of money and I'm making this amount of money. I don't have any clout to say anything. Yes, you do. You are the professional. You're the professional, right? I mean, come on, man. I mean, look at what LeBron spends on average a year on maintaining his system. $1 million, over $1 million. Russell Wilson article just came out here. He does the same thing. These guys are paying for people to manage their system. They are building a team around them to manage it. It's like having an investment firm looking at my money and where it's going and how it's being used. Do we have an investment firm for our body and how we use it so that we can continue to take care of our nest egg so that it can thrive our entire life? We don't do that, right? Because no pain, no gain, right? That whole hashtag no sleep. You sleep when you die. Like, come on, man. Come on. You know,
gotta protect that golden goose, baby. You gotta protect that golden goose.
Or wait,
I don't know. Who cares?
Whatever sound a goose makes.
You know.
Yeah. Yes, I love it.
So we're coming close to wrapping up the podcast here. One last question for you, Curtis, and it's not the pick of the week one, but one last question. And I don't know how concise you can make it, but I really wanted to know if you could go back 10 years when you're first starting this beautiful journey. Is there anything you would do different from the get-go?
I would allow myself to think more. I was so, what is everybody else doing? What are they doing? What does a strength coach look like? I got to be that. Like power lift, protein shake. Like, no, I don't. Be me. I'm different, right? I mean, I know the motto, think and thrive. We've been talking about that a little bit, or, you know, our organization or what we're part of and stuff, MSS. And we got to think, man. People want us to think. And so I think the biggest thing in my journey allowed me to be like, you know what? I'm not crazy. The status quo is crazy, right? Like, I'm gonna post on Instagram, but like, if we stick to the status quo, we're never going to grow. And that applies to our clients. If we don't continue to self-educate, if we don't continue to look within ourselves and see, okay, this is what I'm seeing. Can I find research to back it up, or science, real science, right? Real science, not science. Anyways, I think we have trouble in the world counting numbers, but that's here nor there. I think that we need to not look at ourselves as crazy and expand. I mean, we thought the first person that thought we're killing people with surgery, we need to wash our hands. They thought he was crazy, and they realized later down the road, oh my gosh. Like, look at the athletic training industry. They're going more the route that we've been going. They're collecting data. They're trying to assess that data, make decisions. And now that's becoming the norm. That's becoming the norm. And now but then you got the people that are really reaching. So if I was to go back in time, I would not hinder myself and pin myself down to not think. I would stop trying to fit myself into a box, because I'm me, man. You guys are you. Like, I love what brand I talked a while back, but we are our brand. When we step on the floor, we are our brand. We are these things. And so being okay with that is a tough step to take. But once you're okay with that, I think the possibilities of growing and helping our clients, which is what this is all about, will be limitless. We have to get out of our own way so we can be the best for our clients, be the best project manager, you know? So that's what I would change.
Curtis, thank you so much. That was fantastic. And I think a great way to end this episode would be, what was that song you guys were singing at the beginning again?
Oh, baby, good morning. Ooh. Oh, no, what was the other one?
Oh,
Are we talking about T-Pain? T-Pain and
E40, bro.
Tell me where to go. Tell me where to go.
Keep going.
Boom, boom, boom.
Boom, boom,
everyone,
boom.
thank you so much for listening to the Minds on Muscle podcast with Curtis Clay. Keep going, guys.
Ooh, go. Get them dreads, just shake them. Jesus Christ had dreads, so shake them.
And I'm rolling on.
All right. See you later, Curtis. Have a great one, man. That was great.
Buddy. Have a great one.
Everyone, thank you so much for watching that episode. Minds on Clay's Muscle. That was great. That's our good friend Curtis from Seattle. And Curtis, thanks so much for partaking. Glenn, what do you think about all that today?
I love speaking to Curtis. He's always a wealth of knowledge. He's always bringing something different to the conversation. So yes, thank you so much, Curtis, for joining us today. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes, give us that 5-star review. We'd really appreciate it. You can also find us on Spotify, YouTube, and Podbean as well. Brandon, where are we in person?
So we are at Strata Internal Performance. We're in Newmarket, Ontario. If you guys want to check us out, we're at 17705 Leslie Street. We've got a cool 4,000 square foot spot with lots of unique machines, great exercise professionals like Glenn and I. Please come check us out. We'd love to hang out with you.
Everybody have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week.
Minds on Clay's Muscle.